Hello everyone, and it's really been a productive week full of competitive interviews and full of competitors performing everywhere. Speaking of performers, speaking of competitors performing everywhere, we have today none other than the winner of the Lightning Horse tournament, Pespscola. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing really good. Again, just really having a lot of good performances has been like a really good season for me, and I'm just happy that I finally won a tournament.
I mean, technically you've won tournaments before because you won your Masters. This is, I think, the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
solo tournament. And more to come.
Not the first solo tournament, but is definitely the first solo tournament I've won this year. Um, yeah, so it's big. Yeah, for sure.
So, let's get to the first important question. How can you have such a majestic hair?
I don't know. I think it's just genetics, and the corona really helped just letting it grow for. I think I never had the hair so long, so yeah, it's actually I really like it. Being having this crazy afro hair, it's it's funny to see people react to it.
It's going to become eventually your trademark if it's not already.
Yeah.
Let's get to the burning questions. And speaking of burning questions, there are some get excited, there are some mystic shots, and we thematically named this deck because it's been there so long and probably is going to be here in the next expansions to come, and we're so tired. Not you again, Fistiev, not you again. Does it need any introduction?
Yeah, it really doesn't. Again, one of the best decks, if not the best. I was for seasonals. I was a little bit scared of counter fist TF decks because of triple aggro lineups. But when I was talking to Kavir about my lineup, he actually brought a really good point, which is in region lock, it's really hard to bring a triple target like fist TF with aggro. I feel like if you try to counter it with control or mid range, it's not really that effective. I think Fist TF can easily just outdraw mid range control decks. Even like there's no combo deck that's stronger than this combo deck. Is like just the best way to counter it's legitimately just triple aggro, and with the region lock restriction, there was like no real obvious way to go triple aggro. There was like some endure pirates or discard plus scouts, but like endure I think loses to flipped TF very easily. They don't have a lot of removal for him, so I just felt like even the counter triple aggro lineup I could beat with this deck, so I was not really too worried about it.
If I remember correctly, you weren't running Zonite Urchin in the list that you played in the seasonal Swiss rounds.
Mhm.
What made you add the card? What was the main reason for it?
Because of that read that people won't be able to counter it, I was not expecting a lot of people to play aggro decks. Butcher was like really good aggro tech because of the 3/3 body plus the ignition was just solo carrying that those matchups. Like if you were winning against aggro was because of Butcher most of the time. So I decided to cut Butcher for that reason, and I added one Zonite, one stress testing just for more extra consistency. I think Zonite in this deck is better than Zap. Um, the problem with Zap is like 4 mana is a lot. It's like a lot. And you want to be able to cycle through your deck, get to your combo. And Zonite is just more efficient at doing that, especially when I run triple stress testing, which also makes Zap worse and makes Zonite better. And that's like I just wanted the deck to perform consistently, and yeah, that's why I decided to put the Zarnets in the stress testings, the extra ones. Yeah.
I think you have been one of the biggest apostles for FistTF, but I do think that you changed it in the seasonal top cut. What made you go to that decision?
In the seasonal top cut, I just didn't want to bring it because I thought that people would bring triple aggro lineups, and for seasonal that's much more scarier, right? It's much easier to counter FistTF with Riot Lock. That's why I didn't decide to bring it. I think I regret that decision, honestly. I think to what the field was, I would still do very fine into the meta. Even though there were some counter lineups, I think I still should have brought this deck. Yeah.
Do you think that FistTF is going to have any real challenge in the new meta, or is it still going to be the deck that is smashing everything?
So from what we've seen from like the new decks, there's like the scariest card for this deck is Spirit Fire. I think Spirit Fire could actually almost kill this deck, just because the possibility of decreasing 6 damage on your attack. Like most of the time, this deck has a full board of elusives. They are not getting blocked, so Spirit Fire will get like most of the time max value and then board clear the opponent in the end of the round. I think that's very scary for this deck. Um, the control tools that Freljord got are scary as well. Ice Shard and Ravine are scary, but honestly, I don't think this deck will. I think this deck will still be the best deck in the format, just because like TF is still very very strong in this deck. I think a lot of decks will lose when they don't have the removal on turn 4 and still might lose after they have removal on 4. So I really don't think FistTF will change much in the tier list for sure.
It might see a change if some of the core cards are going to see a change, maybe if they're going to rework TF, but that is the thing that is of fantasy. We still need to see what Riot has in store. So
Yeah.
until then, FistTF is going to be dominant, I guess. But another deck that has been present during the last season was Fiora Shen again.
Yeah, this again, like Riot region lock was pretty hard to find 3 decks that were like really good. So I went back to my Fiora Shen. I think Fiora Shen is one of my best decks. I think I can pilot it very well. Um, and even though sometimes it can be an inconsistent deck, I think it's a deck that can truly beat every deck. I think the only like really polarized matchups are Ash Nox and Dravenaz. Besides those two matchups, I think Fiora Shen is just really solid into the field. Like it has a lot of skill expression generally, and it's just like a comfort pick for me. I just really like the deck. And I think it was a decent meta call generally, especially because I was expecting aggro or, um, yeah, expecting a little bit of aggro for sure.
And is there anything special to this list, or just that one cheeky Laurent Chevalier?
I mean, Laurent Chevalier has been like one of my favorite tech cards in this deck. I think it fixes so many hand states. It's a fourth river shaper. Um, and yeah, it's just one amazing tech in this deck generally. So that's not really new. I think the newest change I did to this deck was double relentless, because there's nothing that Fiorashen is really targeting. I really wanted the option of pressuring my opponent. especially against like Targon decks. I think Rally would be very, very good against those, especially if you have Citri on board or if you already have like Fiora Shen and Screeching Dragon. Like you can put out a lot of pressure against Targon because their units are not too big. So yeah, the main reason, like the main tech was just the second Relentless Pursuit, which I usually like it as a one-off. But yeah, for the meta I was expecting, I really like the second one.
Didn't it feel like too much ready effects with both Relentless Pursuit and Tiana Crown Guard as well?
Generally, yes, but I really wanted the ability of pressuring my opponent and not let my opponent just press the OK button. And like against the Targon decks, you need to finish the game. You can't let them just like do what they want, invoke into big elusive and to finish you off. Like you need to pressure them, and I felt like Relentless Pursuit in this meta currently was a good meta call.
And from what we have seen and what I actually cast every single time you've opened with Fiora Shen, I think you faced the mirror, but even with that, every Fiora Shen mirror was a win for you.
Yeah. I mean, generally the mirror has some luck, but generally it comes a lot of bluffing and hand checking, yeah. So you sometimes you're behind and you need to accept it and you need to see what cards the opponent has. And I won a game because of that. I checked my opponent for the Nai, and he didn't have it. It was against 10. It was like a crucial moment. And generally, I just feel really like how I said, I'm just really comfortable with the deck, and I feel like I understand the mirror very well. And yeah, it just I'm just super comfortable with this. Like it's just one of my favorite decks ever for sure.
Well, Comfort deck, a lot of mirrorings, and in fact, a lot of 2-0s until the grand final. Like, every
Yeah,
game you speedrun, you are like, I need to wake up early tomorrow and win seasonals. I need to speedrun this, and it worked out.
yeah. It was. I didn't expect that. Like I was playing a triple like tempo decks. The Fistf is not as aggressive. He's more of like I reach this turn and I kill you. But the other two decks were like pretty tempo oriented. Wanted to like snowball the game, and man, just the decks really just flew. Like the decks just performed super well. And yeah, like just crazy. I didn't expect winning that fast for sure.
I think most of the fast winning was due to the last deck, to their third deck, and that was
Yeah.
Zoe Aphelios, because man, if someone would have seen that, they wouldn't believe it how consistent you could draw into 1 drop to 2 drop to Aphelios to, yeah, that was crazy.
Like yeah, like it was supposed to have cameras, the casting, and every time I got Lunari Duskbringer into Aphelios against Fiora, I was like, oh my god, this is just too good. Like Lunari Duskbringer into Aphelios, oh my, it's just so much tempo, especially with the Sky Shadows. Sky Shadows just allows you to recycle guns so easily, place so many units. Like it's just crazy how this deck explodes when it has a fuse. Like it is a consistent deck. It has different win conditions. It's just when it has Aphelios, man, the deck flies. It's just I love this deck honestly. I think it's like my favorite deck. This meta for sure. It's just I love this deck, honestly.
Talking about the elephant in the room of Helios, because it has been nerfed, it has been called that it is overpowered, to say the least. Do you think that the nerf will impact that much this deck?
It will a bit. Just because he one of the reasons he was so good is he was a really good turn 3. He was a really good value engines to the later on the game, but he was really hard to kill. Like there's not a lot of 3 damage kill Aphelios, right? There's Get Excited, there's like Noxian Fervor, but like most of the cards are either in PNZ or they're not really played, right? Or they cost a lot, let's say it like that. So Aphelios will be a little bit weaker, but I still think that he's one of the best champions right now, because even when your opponent removes it, it's a one for one trade, but you still get a weapon. So if you nightfall him, your opponent removes them. If you don't have protection, you're still like in a good position because you got a free card. So I think he will be easier to counter. Like now, countering it with PNC will be an option, but I still think it's like really really powerful, the card.
Alright, so let's recap a bit. First Fistiev, then Fiora Shen, then Zoe Aphelios. With this
Yeah.
lineup, what were you supposed to target, or what did you expect?
I was expecting aggro, a little bit, not too much. How I said, I was expecting Fiora Shen. I was expecting maybe a little bit of Lee. Um, just a lot of decks generally, and I feel like this lineup could beat every deck. I think Zoe Aphelios is just a tempo deck. If I can get to my value engines, I can win every matchup. Um, Fiora Shen the same. Like if I get a good hand, I feel very comfortable that I will win with it. Um, in most matchups as well, and then Fistiev is just really good deck. One of the best decks in the format, and even if I'm against a counter deck, or if I'm in a favorable matchup, the deck will be able to still wins very easily. So yeah, I just wanted to hit, not target anything in specific. That's not really my style generally. I just wanted to be do good into the field generally, and yeah, just play tempo decks. And yeah, basically that's my lineup.
And how did you feel when you picked up the first losses? Because until the grand final, as we said, you just went 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, and quite at a fast speed. And then Yanagira happens, and suddenly you pick up your first loss. How did it feel?
So the pick was very interesting. I expected my opponent to pick Endure first, because it was the most unfavored deck, because of Fiora Shen. So I opened Fiora Shen, my opponent counters it with a Draven S. So I was like already unfavored. But it was fine for me because I felt like I could 2-0 Endure easily. Again, they don't have a lot of good ways to stop the TF flip. In the TF Swain days, TF flipping was the win condition against Endure. Like even though it was like a god awful matchup, your win condition was flipping that TF. And I felt like if I get to my TF, I will probably win that game against Endure. So I felt really comfortable, and then my Fiora just breaks completely. It was like heartbreaking how much Fiora break there. Like my only unit was Bristol Protector and then C3 the Bold and then only spells. Like it was so sad, that hand. But yeah, like I felt like that his lineup was not too good against mine. I think my lineup did already was doing pretty well against his, so I didn't feel too worried personally.
And what made you change your ban in the last round and then take it all? What was the call?
So the main reason that I banned scouts was because um it beat it was beating FizTF and the Zoe Diana. But then I just realized that he has to ban Zoe Diana because of the Draveness and because of the Endure. So I just banned Scouts because it was good into two of my decks. But then I just realized that I should just give best odds to my Fiora Shen. I open with Fiora. Did I open with Fiora Shen? No, I opened with TF Fizz, I think. But
Yes.
yeah, I opened with TF
Mm-hmm.
Fizz. But I just wanted to give my Fiora Shen the best odds because I felt like TF Fizz can easily get a win against Endure, or pretty easily. Maybe not that easy. People say it's a counter, so maybe it's not as easy, but I felt like confident in that matchup. I think it was not that unfavored. So yeah, I just decided to ban Draveness to give Fiorashin the best outs, basically. Just because I completely forgot that he must ban Aphelios in that lineup. Like, there's no way he doesn't ban Aphelios. Yeah.
Would you put that as the main factor that you smooth sailed through the rounds until the grand final? Because if I remember correctly, no one banned your Zoephilius.
Um, I think Aphelios is really good. Like, I feel like is not a ban most of the cases because of TFFizz. I think TFFizz should be the main target to ban. I think the deck is too powerful. And it's like just a really good tournament deck because it's like it doesn't use strong champions besides TF. I mean TF is kind of a strong champion, but like it's good in that package, right? So you have TF, which is a good champion. Then you have Fizz, which is not a good champion. You have PNZ and Bilgewater, which are not necessarily good regions, just because like Bilgewater is just a good region because of TF, right? And Burblefish. So it's like the deck just doesn't require you to sacrifice a lot and forces a ban, and that's why the deck is so good. It's like you open yourself to so many decks by playing it, even though it's the best deck, and you're open to play Aphelios decks, Fiora Shen, like so you're open to play so many decks. So I don't blame my opponents for not banning Aphelios. I think you should definitely always split Aphelios and TF from each other, because there are like those two decks are the best decks in the format right now. Like an Aphelios deck is really good, a TF deck is really good, and splitting them just forces bans in one side or the other. So I don't blame my opponents for banning TF instead of Aphelios for sure.
It would have been tough no matter what the ban was.
Exactly.
Uh, Going to the format itself, what tips would you give to the people that are preparing not for Riot Lock but for Region Lock?
Um. So generally, you don't when you go to a new format, you need like especially these restrictive ones. Card locks and region locks are the hardest one to the easiest ones to predict, the easiest formats, because Riot Lock gives you a lot of flexibility. You can bring easily the three best decks in the ladder, right? When it comes to region lock and card locked, you need to try to um, foresee what's possible and what's not in region or card locked, and from that prediction then build your decks around it. Like I think that's the main um, opi-
Idea.
the main idea. Yeah, sure. The biggest advice I can give for Riot Lock and for card locked and region lock is just see the boundaries of the ladder meta, transition to the region lock meta, because they're very different. Like region lock and card locked are very restrictive when you look at it like well. So yeah, that's definitely my main advice that I can give.
Well, you are going to have a fair share of card luck because LRA is coming up next. You are in the Madden, you are going to play in the tournament. You are probably going to do great again, like all of our players. Yeah, rant over. Anyways, besides the Madmen that of course support you, who helped you prepare for the tournament?
Mostly Kovira. I think Kovira has been like a big help in the tournament preparation. I think his takes are really good, and yeah, just has been a blast screaming with him and yeah, playing with him.
Nice. Well, it has been an honor to have you, Pesp, here as always. I do expect you to come back every 1 week or two because you are a rising star currently, winning your first tournament of the year. We do have high expectations for you. So congratulations again, and ladies and gentlemen, see you next time.